I see my time is up. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the gentleman. Congressman Bilbray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, I'm sort of sitting here listening to this testimony and all at once realizing, as we're in the micro, there's a macro message here. You did say the Fed has the authority to hire and fire the Board of Directors.
Well, what I said is I have an understanding that under unusual circumstances, if the Federal Reserve is dealing with a regulated entity and that there are decisions made at that regulated entity that endangers the safety and soundness of that institution, then the Fed has the authority to hold them accountable. Now, clearly, in terms of corporate governance 101, we have we know how boards are selected, and we know that boards select management. But there needs to be something for regulated entities where the regulator can protect the safety and soundness.
Well, I'm sensing we've moved in beyond where we've historically been. We've gone into a brave new world where now, with a de facto nationalization of the industry, we're sitting here as a committee considering items that in 1927, when this committee was founded, never dreamed that Washington would be determining what decisions are made in either Wall Street or Main Street. Now Washington is making those determinations. And this brave new world we ventured into of nationalizing, major industries really does place a strain on a system that was never designed to make the decision or to do the oversight as we're trying to do today. Never was perceived by the founders of this committee that we would be having this discussion. My question to you, as the Secretary, as we talk about other situations and talk about exit strategies, where is the exit strategy? What date can I tell my constituents that we will not have this discussion anymore? That this committee and Congress will not be discussing how we have influenced or directed the decisions in at least this major industry. When will we be out of the business of doing banking?
Well, I would say, first of all, that is the major question. It's a question I ask myself, and it's a question that's easier to ask than it is to answer. But it's a question you should be asking, because we, as a nation, needed to do some things that many of us found abhorrent. They just were better than the alternative. And so once the system is stabilized and the economy is turned, then there needs to be great consideration given to how we exit this and in how we put in place those reforms to really reduce we're going to be back here again doing these sorts of things. But I can't stand here and tell you today that I have the answer to your question, but I hope it's soon.
Well, let me just say, I think the last administration had the public turn on them because they did not have an exit strategy for another situation. Regardless of who's in the making of this, if this administration doesn't develop an exit strategy, give some timelines that do not exist today, I think all of us are going to be held responsible for the fact that Washington has stepped into something, has started punching in this tar baby, and now has no way of extricating ourselves out of it. And we have now created a whole new environment of what is appropriate for the federal government to be doing. And we're down now having this hearing about who gets hired or fired, who is notified that if they don't do certain actions, there's going to be termination. All of these things have never been perceived as being the appropriate position for the federal government, which is now the federal government's engaged into. So extracting ourselves out of the situation is going to be something I think the American people are going to demand very soon. Madam Chair, at this time I'd like to yield to the gentleman from the Carolinas, if I remember right.
Without objection.
Thank my colleague from whatever that state is in the West that's financially sound. So, Secretary Paulson, just in continuation with my line of questioning before, from the notes we have on your schedule from December 19th, mid-December, December 19th is what we have. It shows you had roughly 5 phone calls with Dr. Bernanke, with Chairman Bernanke that day. Was that fairly typical in those very busy days of multiple communications, one-on-one and at the staff level?
Yeah, we had, I'm not sure 5 every day, but we had multiple conversations for 7 or 8 months there.
And when you communicated with Chairman Bernanke, did you express, on this day we have, multiple calls with Chairman Bernanke, a couple calls to Ken Lewis, Thane, Geithner, a number of different folks throughout the day. Did you describe to Chairman Bernanke your conversation you had with Ken Lewis?
The conversation with who?
Ken Lewis.
Oh, with Lewis. And my conversation on which day? The 19th?
Well, whatever day it was. I mean, did you describe the conversations you had with Ken Lewis?
Oh, the conversation I had with Ken Lewis on the 21st.
You talked to Ken Lewis multiple times in December.
Oh, yes.
There were multiple conversations where he said they were considering Mac. You said it was bad. You then came back and said, yeah. Your microphone, I think, is off. And
Can you hear me now? Communicated frequently with summarized conversations.
sure. And at the same time, did you keep your successor, Mr. Geithner, informed?
Yes, in a different way. That Chairman Bernanke was a major decision maker. During this period, once Tim Geithner was a Secretary of Treasury designate, then we wanted a very smooth transition, so I kept him posted on a variety of things, but I wasn't looking to him as a decision maker when I posted him.
Thank you.
I thank the gentleman. Congressman Connolly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And